Hi, everyone. Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law and Mediation, the Why Do Pets Matter podcast, and of course, this wonderful MAAP community who I am so grateful to come and spend time with every Wednesday night. In fact, I've had 3 people try to make appointments at this time, and I go, sorry, I have a group of people I need to meet, and nothing is going to keep me from that group of people. So while we wait for everybody to come, I want to fill you in on my day today, a little off topic, but not. Because if you're making a plan for your pet, you want to make a plan for um, end of life. And today we had on Why Do Pets Matter, Valerie Adams, who I have to say just knocked it out of the park. The comments on the podcast were phenomenal. This is the hardest thing to ever do, to say goodbye to your pet. And Valerie helps everyone do that in a way that really just makes you feel as if you know what you want done for your pet. And if you don't make a plan to do it, it's not going to happen. Hi, Susan. How are you? So the other thing I wanted to chat about, there were 2 things that came across. I'm on a bunch of horse people's groups, so older horsewomen and just Mustangs, because I love the Mustangs, the wild horses. So I'm on a number of those websites and groups on Facebook. And so 2 things stood out to me that drove me crazy. One was that a woman was getting divorced and her ex had hidden her horse. And I get it that divorces are really difficult. I'm handling 2 right now with pet issues. And it's something you can handle before this happens while you still like each other. I know no one wants to talk about death, divorce, disability, disaster. Nobody wants to talk about these things because, I'll address it when it happens. And like me, you have to address it before it happens, because when it's happening, it's too late. So the woman is looking for her horse. She's posted pictures. If you've seen this horse, this is his brand, let me know. These are terrible things that happen, and they happen because plans aren't made before things go awry. And, I get it that people are not doing their best these days. I get that. And that it was the last thing someone ever thought someone would do. However, it happens. And so when you're making your plan to stay with your spouse for the rest of your life, is the best time to make a plan about what to do with the pets if that doesn't work out, because you still like each other, and it is a more amicable discussion than if you are not having a really good time with your spouse. Then it's really difficult. The other piece that was really interesting to me, one of my really dear friends who put my MAAP program in the back of her book, Here Comes the Mountain, her story about rescuing a wonderful horse charger who was a rack of bones, and she rehabilitated him, and just was a fabulous person. She just adopted. Charger passed away of natural causes. I think he was released and transitioned on his own terms, on Janis's terms. However, now she is acquiring a new horse through the back roads of people who work on horses. The people who come and deliver your hay, your farrier, your vet, your teeth floater, they're all part of the family when you have an animal, especially a horse. So one of those parties let her know about a horse that was available due to a divorce. And, she has looked at the horse, it's going to work out, and it has fallen in a pile of clover, I might add, because she has really rehabilitated. He doesn't need to be rehabilitated. He's in pretty good shape. However, he's going to live the life of Riley with Janis going forward. Highly recommend both books she read. One is called Sable and the other is Here Comes the Mountain. Her name is Janis Londraville. She sent me a few of her books that I've given away at various times. And once I unpack the boxes on River Drive, I will give them away again, but they're in boxes right now. So for today, I'm going to check in with you, Susan. I know that Connie is busy, I believe, and Sally is in the Caribbean with Gordon. Thank God they got away. And of course, she has somebody watching Athena and Roxy, who is living in the house. And she has 2 backups for the caregiver in the event something happens to the caregiver. So it really is, the perfect setup. And of course, my number is the number to call in the event something occurs, because they're in the Caribbean and I'm going to get up from North Carolina much more quickly than someone from the Caribbean. Oh, Connie is coming. Great, wonderful, perfect. It's been a very busy week at Hamilton Law and Mediation. Unfortunately, I wish everyone would take my advice and make the plan before their relationship blows up. However, they're not. Then I have, thanks to my colleagues in the dog world, I have 2 or 3 contract disagreements that I'm dealing with, hopefully without litigation. I have come to understand that if we write adversarial contracts, that's how the relationship is going to proceed. If we write conscious contracts where we talk to each other and build a relationship from day one, then that's how it's going to proceed. And in both of the contracts that I'm working with the parties, so adversarial, so many terms about showing, about breeding, about puppies back, a ton of things. And really, the litigation is unnecessary, but that's the only thing people think to do. And attorneys love to get these cases because you're going to spend a lot of money. And it's an emotional discussion that should be better handled in a conflict conversation or a mediation than a litigation. But then all of you know that because I'm like a broken record about that. So before we go any further, I'm going to check in with you, Susan. How is Maggie doing? Is she taking her meds?
She's doing better, but I've noticed even with the meds, she still has a rough edge to her. And I mentioned in one session that she wouldn't let me talk to my husband because as soon as I opened my mouth, she would start barking her head off.
Right.
And, I did look Doug Pointer up. He's in Richmond, I think.
Yep.
So I do need to continue to work with Maggie. Incredibly busy right now.
It'll happen. You're doing the best you can.
Yeah, I'm selling 3 rental properties. I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff, but I'll get to it, and I know she's a priority, so.
Well, we're doing everything we can. I have to say, both my husband and I have come to terms with the fact that, this has been a rough 2 years, and we're not even talking about the pandemic.
Yeah.
We're talking about,
relocation.
The relocation and the newness of everything and the lack of expediency with which they work in North Carolina. We love you, North Carolina. Don't get me wrong. However, speed, essence, time is of the essence, is not even a word in the vocabulary of North Carolinians. And that's fine. I mean, that's why we moved here, right? So we'll get in the
different than a New York minute, right? Yeah.
There is no New York minute in North Carolina, not even a New York hour in North Carolina. So yeah. But we really like it here, and I love walking to Beaufort. And Junie and I made many visits to Beaufort today, and I'm trying to do a bunch of recordings so that my musings with Junie don't stop once I have surgery, which will occur March 10th.
No.
Yay. Moved up from May 12th. So that was good. So I can actually make my national now. And I'm making plans for that because, of course, I'm leaving him home with Jim because he's already a champion. So he's not going to national because I'm lazy and don't want to have to drag him along. And he's not ready yet. He's only 5. He's a very immature boy. I think I'm going to bring him out when he's a veteran there are different tools and tricks to the trade, and I think he'll be a better veteran than he is a young dog as he sleeps here snoring. And if you hear it, I apologize. Connie, how are the kids in California?
We're doing fine, thanks, Deborah. Sorry I'm a bit late. We are in the throes of our membership dues renewal. In fact, yesterday was supposedly the witching hour, and everybody went, "Oh my God!" after our president sent out a note saying, "Today's the last day, and if you don't have your dues in by March 1st." So suddenly, we got a boatload in, and I have 3 people on the membership committee with whom I'm working, but of course I'm processing all the payments. And then, of course, it's tax season. Oh my God! And so, even though as a tax exempt, not for profit, we only have to file an income statement that is due May 15th, not April 15th. I have still been, on the horn with our nonprofit CPA. He's in Cleveland. I'm here in LA, and so it's been real.
Yeah, there's a little time difference there. There's a little weather difference there. Yep.
Yeah,
I know.
Exactly. So I was just wrapping up some IRS stuff, as a matter of fact. And so I apologize for being slightly late.
Oh, no, I was a little late too. Go ahead.
Oh, good. Well, we are all fine. We had an interesting weather event yesterday, what they call a cutoff low, cutoff being from the jet stream, which is way, way up north. Hugging the Canadian border. And so that's been why we haven't had rain for 6 weeks after our December deluge. But we did have some yesterday, and it all came in a bang. And of course, particularly as I was leaving the house for a 6 o'clock meeting 15 minutes away, it all came down, and the sky looked very tornadic. And in fact, when I was feeding the pups before I left, I had the 5 o'clock news on, and they showed the Rose Bowl and Arroyo Seco, the canyon around the Rose Bowl, and the lovely residential area, and all of the above were completely covered in hail. It looked like a snowstorm.
And I believe it has tarmac now, the Rose Bowl, right?
No, I think they still have turf. But
because they were doing the road race.
No, that was the Coliseum. That was the LA Coliseum.
Okay.
No, there's still turf in the Rose Bowl. And in fact, it's the home field of my UCLA Bruins, so I know it well.
Yeah, we were pretty sad. We thought it was the Rose Bowl. We were like,
yeah, no, not at all. They still have real grass, but it was all covered in hail yesterday, and they had huge thunderstorms rolling across the valleys. And in fact, just the storm that I drove into, going north in the South Bay, came down from Malibu, Santa Monica, and there were huge lightning strikes, and I could see them.
And that's fire.
Yeah, and it was pretty scary, but fortunately, nothing went up, and it was very cold. The temperature dropped 13 degrees in the space of 4 hours yesterday afternoon.
Wow. So, my son is out in North Hollywood area. I'm sure they were getting the same weather you were getting.
Yeah. In fact, I think they got worse than we got.
They probably were not happy to see him that he brought New York weather to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, again, that could have caused disaster. It could have caused delay. It could have caused all kinds of stuff. I mean, with the rain was coming down pretty hard, and my windshield wipers flipped into, full tilt, and perfect conditions for an auto accident. So, if you're delayed getting back to your dogs, guess what?
It's becoming more and more apparent to me that I had a call last week with a group on a committee for the Irish Setter Club of America. And we were all, of course, saying sad things because it was the first time this committee met since our president passed away. And they were all saying how great it was that everybody popped into action and took care of the dogs. And I said, well, yeah. I said, but wouldn't it have been great if her brother had known what she wanted him to do or who to call? And so this is why this call and this community is so important. And I know that so many people listen to this outside the 6:30 hour. I get it. But you really should not depend on the kind hearts of your countrymen. I know that we're there. The Wheatons are going to be there for the Wheatons and beyond. The Irish are going to be there for the Irish and beyond. However, and the Catons are going to be for the Catons and beyond. However, that should be your last resort. You should really take the time to think about what it is that is important to you. At the beginning of the podcast, the little piece you missed was, at the beginning of this community call, the little piece you missed was that Valerie Adams' podcast went up today. And, you know, I think I said last week that the podcast blew my socks off because it had 5,100 downloads. But now it has 5,200 downloads, and there hasn't been a drop till today of the next session. So Holy Toledo celebration, pop the corks. But it's because of Valerie Adams, who talks about end of life and euthanasia and hospice. And that's what she cares about. That's what she does. She said, this has been something I've done. So you and I, Connie, know that there were some brilliant people when we were younger who understood the impact of euthanasia on pet owners. And so took that on as something that they really excelled at and did a great job helping the people help their pets transition. Valerie is one of those people. We're going to have her back soon again because we ran out of time before we ran out of information. So we're going to have her back again. But it is so important to plan for your pet, because if someone doesn't know what it is you want to do for your pet, then whatever it is you would have done for your pet won't get done. And it's not about the money, and it's not about it's about what you would want them to do. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think last week I mentioned that the recording secretary of my obedience club wound up unexpectedly in the hospital, and she has two standard poodles, one who's a young adult and one who's pretty just over the hump being a puppy. And so Gail wound up in the hospital, and suddenly, oh my God, what do we do with the dogs? Well, fortunately, a neighbor was able to come over, and I mentioned how one of our gang was on email that morning when Gail went into the ER, and she's emailing all of us, can you take care of Gail's dogs, whom we all know. And so fortunately, one of her neighbors came to the rescue and said that he knew of a very good kennel and he would arrange to have boarding until she got out of the hospital. Well, two problems. First of all, he doesn't own the dogs. He doesn't own the dogs. That's one. The second is that leptospirosis, like in New York City, is going like wildfire over Southern California. And unless you have your dog inoculated for lepto, and the vaccine itself is awful, and a lot of vets will not give it until it's a last resort. I don't have mine inoculated yet. Fortunately, they're not near standing bodies of water. But at any rate, so this poor guy was just moving heaven and earth, trying to find a kennel that would take two uninoculated dogs. And he finally found one that was a good kennel. The two girls are there, but it's $80 a day. So yesterday morning, our first vice president, Pam, who we emailed all of us last week, was saying, gee, can we do a pass the hat because it's $80 a day and the bill is up to $480 and we don't know when Gail's getting out of the hospital. So all I thought of, and I even emailed back to the distribution list. I said, anybody who's interested in a solution, I've got one, meaning the MAAP plan.
Be here.
And please help me, and I will be happy to give you all the information. Well, unfortunately, I didn't get any takers. Yeah. But the next time we have our Gals, Dogs, and Wine dinner party, which should be coming up soon, I'm going to say, hey, gang, there's a different way to do this.
I have to tell you, Connie, the same disappointment came when I wrote the article for the memo on Jan's passing. And the same came after everything settled after Jan's passing with the people who came and helped. They go, we helped. Why do we need to write something down? We're all here. And I'm like, but did you know that Jan wanted that to happen to her dogs? Did you know? I said, and on the other side, So the first thing is you want people to know what you want to have done with your pets. The second thing that was so disappointing and disastrous and could have been huge because he was her only surviving family member and could have put his foot down and said, nay, no, never, right? Her brother didn't know anything about what was going on and trusted, that these people who came out of the woodwork who he'd never met were doing what Jan wanted him to do without a scintilla of evidence that they were correct. And so just as a normal human being, you need to understand that your family needs to know, your vet needs to know. So, the poodles needed to get leptospirosum to go to maybe a $30 a day, or $40 a day each. Well, 30 because that'd be 80 kennel. And they couldn't because they didn't have the shot. Well, if somebody was on the list at the vet, they could have taken the dogs to get leptospirosis so that they could go to maybe a closer, less expensive, just as good kennel, but couldn't because they could only go and maybe they charged extra because they didn't have leptospirosis as a vaccination. Here in New York, we have to have it because and at North Carolina, just as bad. And I have to say that I was a keen objector because I just said, no way. But it's come a long way. So do a little research kind of because it's come a long way and it's leaving less of a reaction in dogs now. Because it really has come a long way because of all the reactions in dogs. And you know me, I am so not a vaccinator. I don't Lyme vaccinate. And people say to me, I don't understand why you don't Lyme vaccinate. I said, well, I don't. And I might change my mind because of the long-term organ effect that can happen on their kidneys,
really
on their
attacks the
liver,
kidneys,
on
too.
their hearts, right? So I really, I just want to know a little more. I just want to know a little more. But these are the kind of things that we talk about here. So the D's grew. I wish I had that piece of paper with me. I thought I wrote it down, but maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I am going to put a link if I get it. So tonight, the AMC in New York City is doing a fabulous discussion on pet dental health care. In fact, that's why I'm on my iPad because I'm recording it on my iPad because I wasn't smart enough to do the reverse. So that's why I'm looking a little different. But it really has been phenomenal. And of course, the MAAP plan, right? Do you want your dog to get dentals? Well, if it's not in the plan and nobody knows and your dog really needs dentals, and I can tell you, I have never had a dog with teeth like Junie. And I am going to have dentals every 6 months with him. And after listening to the first half hour of this program, the dentist said, listen, if your dog has really bad film that comes on their teeth immediately after the dental procedure, immediately after you brush, it just is their chemical makeup. They could be sister and brother, and one could have shitty teeth and the other one could have really good teeth. But
I've had that.
These are the kind of things that you have to think about, because if you are religious in giving your dog dentals every year or 6 months, and nobody's going to do that unless you tell them. Oh, so I was in this group, lost my train of thought, and one person said, well, I've solved everything because I have an account that is release upon death, payment upon death, transfer upon death, all of the above. So all of her money, transfer upon death is usually securities and things. Payment upon death is a bank account. Well, there's a number of reasons why that is not the best way to take care of your pet. One is the person who gets it hasn't agreed to take care of your pets. I'm just saying they're getting money and they have said to you, oh yeah, I'll take care of your pets, but you don't have any written document or direction on how to take care of the pets. So will the money be used for your pets? I'm not so sure, but trusting is good. That's great. Transfer upon death. You can't get it. So if you don't die, or if you die and if you are incapacitated, you can't transfer it again. So it'll always go to that beneficiary. Where when you're making a pet trust, it is to 2 or 3 people with the proviso that it's for the dog. So, please ask your trust and estate provider What is the best way to put money aside? And remember, I say all the time, it is not about the amount of money you put aside. No one should be taking your dogs because they're going to get a windfall of money. There should be enough money there to allow the pet to transfer from point A to point B. So $2,000 to $5,000. And then that's it. Because this person should be taking the dog because I love Connie and I love her dogs. And if something happened to me, she was going to take my dogs. And I know that if something happens to her, I'm going to take her dogs. And if I'm able, I'm going to keep them. If I'm not able, I'm going to find a wonderful home like Susan to put them in. And I'm going to keep in touch to make sure that they stay safe. These are the kind of plans you have to make. Not that there's going to be, this windfall. So I quietly made no comment on this committee meeting. But I said I will look into it, and I did. And the scariest piece is that if it's transferred upon death, you die, the money's transferred, there's no issue. Great. Nothing directing it for the animals. Nothing. It just goes to Connie. And you cannot get it back if something happens to you. So if you have dementia or you are unconscious and you haven't transferred it back, you can't transfer it back. So always, always, always ask your trust and estate provider, what is the best way to be able to set up funding for your pets and set up funding so that if, God forbid, Connie moves to a townhouse that allows 2 dogs, she can't take my 7 dogs, even though that's what we agreed to, that she was going to take my 7 dogs. She's not going to do it. So it really is important to really understand what it is you're doing. And in that scenario that you just spoke about, the good news was the neighbor knew about the dogs, was confident enough about the dogs to help find somewhere to place them. I'm sure this was serendipitous. I don't know that she ever had a conversation with this person, but maybe she did. Maybe she listened to a few of these recordings and talked to the neighbor and said, if something happens to me, please put the dogs in a kennel. But again, as you so beautifully pointed out, Connie, that's an incredible expense. It is an incredible expense. It's not that the poodle people would not have taken her dog. She just didn't ask.
Right. And the sad thing is that I didn't realize this, but Gail has had health issues for a while. She's been in remission with cancer, but apparently it's flared up again. And so, this wasn't a case of a sudden illness. This has been a recurring illness. And so it was a little shocking that she wouldn't have better preparations for her dogs.
It's shocking to me too. It's they are anticipating you to navigate the journey they're going to take if something happens to you. They're anticipating this. He's laying here and he's waiting for his dinner. And he's thinking that dinner is always going to come, maybe not religiously at the right time for him, because I never had my kids eat at the same time, and I never had my dogs eat at the same time, because if I was traveling, I didn't want to have to. I'm just that kind of person. You might be very regimented. I am so not regimented, but that's okay. It's just that if your dog or cat or bird or horse goes to somebody else, they might get somebody like me, and you're very organized, or they might get somebody who's haphazard like me and then live in an organized house. These are things that you have to really pay attention to. So as we wrap up today, I'm missing my Kieran and I'm missing my Sally. Sally and Gordon are in the Caribbean. They are doing great. And it's been awesome. I've been so thrilled. I hope both of you will go listen to Valerie Adams' podcast, because I have to tell you, it's such a difficult conversation to have, and she had it in such an effective and empathetic way that that's why it's blowing up, because I can't even begin to tell you how great it was. I mean, I have a lot of great guests, so none of the other guests get mad at me for saying that. But this is such a difficult conversation to have, like making a MAAP plan. It's a difficult conversation to have about euthanasia and end of life care of your pet, and what to do and how to do it and who to bring aboard to help you. It really is not easy.
Yeah, it isn't easy. Can I possibly ask for your opinion about something?
Absolutely.
Lady? Because the end of life decision-making is something that really concerns me. You know, my first Catan had hemangiosarcoma, and he was diagnosed in August. He died on December 25th, so he only lived about 4 months. But we went through the mill, and I'm not sure it was the right thing, because he ended up with a leg amputation that got infected. It had to be treated 3 or 4 times. We were running to the vet constantly. You know, he was in a lot of distress at certain points. And I look back on it and think, you know, would we have been better off to just let him, you know, go through his illness and the natural outcome of whatever that was, instead of, you know, doing all of this? And I look back on it and I just don't know. But I'm interested to hear what.
I think we learn from all of our experiences what works, because it's just either watching other people go through it with their pets, or going through a loss with your pet. Each pet is absolutely different. Each person is absolutely different.
I know that's true.
So for me, you know, I have sort of a mantra, it's not about me. So no matter how hard it is for me to let them go in the prime, so to speak, of their life, if they have a awful diagnosis, I let them go. My heart dog, Daisy, didn't give me a choice because she had osteosarcoma, and the only, you know, I swear the angels keep secrets from you. They do when they know you're not ready to hear it. So I knew nothing about the fact that she had a little pain in her femur. She was a little hitch in her giddy up, but it was February in New York. We slip on the ice in February in New York, and she was 9. But she slipped on the floor in the house, broke her femur, and of course it was osteosarcoma. And I could have amputated her leg, but I had sworn to myself, having watched other dogs go through it, and some of them survived like 4 years. Most of them survived about a year, but one survived like 4 years. I just said, you know, that is like all about me. And so that's just me, though. And there are people who have given great quality of life to dogs by finding holistic methods and other things to do. So it's an individual choice.
It is. But if you're making a MAAP plan, yeah, it's kind of hard to.
Well, you just have to. So I always call it the touchstone, right? The touchstone in the MAAP plan would be, for me, if my dogs have a terminal illness, I want to give them every opportunity to live a great life without surgical intervention and with minimal medical intervention. I mean, that would be me. If it was an operable tumor that they would be able to recover from, then I might take it off, because we had a guy with hemangio, and he had 2 surgeries where they removed the tumor twice. It kept coming back. And he woke up from surgery and was wild as the day is long. And actually won the veteran class at the National, I think 6 weeks after his first surgery. So, you know, he was happy as a clam. However, by the time the third, you know, mass arrived, he definitely gave us the look. And you know that look if you see it.
Yes.
Right, Connie? You know that
You
look
betcha.
if you see it. And it's like they live in the moment, they live in the day, and they, you know, I don't think I ever think my dogs thought I let them down when I let them go. And so I let myself down because, you know, was I selfish? Was I too busy to take care of them? Because you can beat yourself up over everything.
Yeah.
But I always feel that I want to always err on it not being about me, but being about them. But as I said, that's an individual choice. And in the MAAP plan, you want to set forth, listen, this is how I feel. You're not going to be there to make sure that Connie, you know, put your dog to sleep if it is osteosarcoma. However, she'll know that's what you'd want her to do. And, you know, you're going to give her guidance. I mean, every single person you appoint to your MAAP plan and every single plan you make is subject to interpretation. That's why you have to talk to all the people, and all the people have to talk to each other, so that Connie and Susan and Rose know what Deborah meant, and we all interpret it differently. And then if something occurs, you feel comfortable calling and saying, Connie, what do you think? I think, this diagnosis would be something Deborah wouldn't want to do something about. And Connie will say, I agree. That's why leaving a MAP plan with multiple people is such a good thing, because, some people say, no, everybody's going to have a different opinion. I don't think so. I think everybody's going to make sure they hold the safe space for what the person left them to do. What do you think, Connie?
I think you're absolutely right, Deborah. And in fact, while you're talking, I'm thinking of what I've been with the same vets for 35 years. Thank God they're right down the hill from me, which is wonderful. They are literally in walking distance. But the founding vet who started the practice 35 years ago, and now he's retired and happily sailing his sailboat in his sloop in Florida.
Did he call it Wheaton?
Yeah, no. I think he had a pointer, if I remember correctly. But at any rate,
the Wheatons paid for it. So
yeah, they sure did. And we should have a wing of the hospital named after us. But at any rate, he always said that euthanasia is the last kind thing you can do for your dog or cat. And I've had to put down both species. And I put down my one cat I've ever had who was fabulous and raised 4 of my Wheatons down at the age of 23. I mean, she had 18 lives, not just 9.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I have always remembered that. And that's really, and the question I always ask the vet when the dog or the cat is going downhill is, and this has always worked for me, but you have to have a vet you can trust with your own life to ask this question.
Right.
But if you do, the question to ask the vet is, if this were your dog, what would you do? Yeah. And if they have a wonderful relationship with you, like I have with my vets, they will tell you.
Because they know how you think and how you feel. And it's not about the money. It's not about what you can do. It's what should you do. It really is what should you do, because there is so much you can do. And some of it is non-invasive, and I'm all for non-invasive, but the invasive is a choice people make. And with Hermengio, it's, Feeney had Hermengio. We did 2 surgeries. We did Chinese medicine. He ate burgers every day. He went hunting twice a week. And the day that he woke up and looked at her as much as to say, okay, I think I'm not feeling very well.
And that's when
she took him hunting. He got out of the car. He sort of ran around looking for birds. And then she took him for a McDonald's hamburger. And then at the end of the day, she brought him to let him go, because she wanted him to do the thing that he loved the most with her. For the last moment she was going to have him. There was really no risk of him bursting, which was good. I guess there was some risk, but not too much. But he definitely, and of course she said, I have to tell you, Susan, she second guessed herself both for doing the surgeries and for letting him go early. It's part of pet ownership that you're always going to second guess yourself. You are always going to say, did I let them go too early? Did I not do enough? Did I do too much? Did he suffer? Was this the right thing to do? And that's why I said at the beginning, you learn from every animal what it is you want to avoid in the next animal, what it is you want to do for the next animal, because every animal is different. Some are stoic. I mean, my dachshunds were as stoic as they come. You would never have known that John was ill. He had a tumor on his spleen. We went in and he had liver cancer. So, okay, who knew? He ate every meal. Except the one that made me worry, and took him in. And that's how he found the spleen. And when they opened him up, they told me what they saw. And I said, yep, and let him go. And I remember pulling the car over and going completely hysterical, because I told him I would see him again. And I never did. So, these animals, that's why you have to make a MAP plan, depend on you to make the best decision for them. So Susan, that was such a great question, such an emotionally charged question, because everybody is different. And your dog appreciated you doing everything you did for them, and you learned. And maybe, well, we know for Maggie, she's meaner than snot, so she's going to live a happy life forever. So it's not going to be a problem. But, we learn from each dog, and hopefully that kind of discussion with your veterinarian and choice to be made will be long in the future for all of us. But, that's why you make the MAAP plan, because not only is it, I find this to be the most important piece of the MAAP plan. Not only is it you're making a plan with other people to take care of your pets, you're making a plan in your own mind for how you're going to care for your own pets. Because when you can't care for them, this is what you're setting up for them. So you are caring for them. So if you truly want to care for your pets, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have 3 people, if you don't have that note on your refrigerator or your back door, leaving the dogs in the house so that until somebody comes, because you have that all set up, then you've really left them to go to a shelter or to go to a kennel for $40 a night, which for some people isn't a big problem, but she probably doesn't even know where that kennel is until her neighbor tells her. So
I doubt that she does.
I mean, these are the kind of things that, you don't think about, and you really have to, because in a split second, I have to tell you, I'm going in for the surgery and Jim is going to take care of Junie. We're not going to send him off to boot camp because I think Jim needs him. Mm-hmm. And it's against my better judgment to leave him here because I think Jim will be overwhelmed, but I think Jim would be more overwhelmed not to have him. And, you really have to think about that. And so I'm interviewing dog walkers. And he goes, I don't need a dog walker. I said, I know you don't need a dog walker, but I might need a dog walker. So I'll get somebody, someday I might need one. And I'm going to set up that person to be on call so that if he's overwhelmed and Junie needs to take a walk, that this person is going to come over to the house and take a walk, and she'll have taken a walk with me, with him before it happens. So I know everything and she knows everything because this is all new. So tell me, ladies, what is up for you in the coming days? How's everything going with your husband and your son, Susan? Are things a little stable?
It's kind of, I hate to say it, but it's up and down. And, Maggie I'm sure she's picking up on the vibe in our household because, it's really unstable, frankly, but it's not so unstable that we're coming unhinged, let's just say.
Right. She's taking advantage of the instability and the energy.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what's a large part of her behavior because she is on the trazodone. So
yeah. Well, I'm wishing you all the best. How about you, Connie? What's up? Any dog shows in your future?
Beverly Hills is it's nominally March 2nd through the 6th. We are entered the 4th for 2 back-to-back specialties, including the Wheaton specialty, and then Saturday, which is the day that NBC actually films Beverly Hills to be broadcast
give David
later.
My best.
I certainly shall. And but there are some very nice judges on the judging panel for the days that we are entered. And it was a real thrash getting grooming space because, of course, they were selling out the spots during the raging Omicron surge here in LA, and I wasn't even sure I was going to enter.
Right.
But when I did enter a couple of weeks ago, when Omicron seemed to be going down, then of course all the grooming spaces were long gone, but they did open up another building at the Fairplex. So I did succeed in getting a 10 by 10 grooming space. Because otherwise it's going to be wild and crazy for people who are doing to
do it out
the
by
show
your
and
car.
go. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, everyone take good care. I'm so glad you were here with us tonight. If you have any questions, anyone, please just write me. I'm going to forward the link to the Animal Medical Center's dental video. If they send it to me, I'll send it to Rose, who will send it to all of you so you can watch. It was really great. And until next time, kiss your dogs for me. This is Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law Mediation, the Why Do Pets Matter podcast, and of course, my wonderful community who I love and who I'm so grateful that you're here with me tonight. Take care.
Thanks, Deborah.